Healthcare stocks often seen as defensive parts of the market, but recently the sector has been lagging. So, is the prognosis for some of the parts of the space better than others? Joining us now to discuss is Sampath, VP for Portfolio Research, TD Asset Management. Great to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk about what's happening out there in the space. Why has healthcare been lagging?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about healthcare, so I would characterize it as an umbrella in a storm, right? But off late, there have been massive holes in this umbrella. So let's dig deeper as to what's happening and why is it that this is happening, right? Number one, COVID. I can't believe that we are still talking about COVID, right?
5 years on.
5 years long. COVID, you had this massive boost to earnings and revenues. Think of Moderna as a company, right? So they were earning less than 100 million pre-COVID, and they earned $20 billion during COVID. Same thing with Pfizer, $40 billion went to $100 billion. So all of this boost basically boosted their revenues, not to take away from the fact that you had a lot of these COVID testing things, and as well as ventilators for people who went into hospitals, right? So all of this was a massive boost to earnings in healthcare in 2021 and 22, and that just rolled over after that. Thinking of that, a COVID ancillary, I would say, is like hospitals, right? So people went to hospitals again during COVID, but post the pandemic, essentially, people who were not doing their elective procedures, right? So things which were not important got pushed into 2023, 24, 25. So hospitals benefited, but insurers did not expect any of these, right? So they paid the check and they suffered losses. Finally, 2025, you thought, okay, everything is in the clear. We are out of here. Trump comes in and changes a few policies here and there, right? So he went through, he said, we need to cut the costs of healthcare, bring Medicaid costs down. Medicaid is people who don't have a job. And he also said, pharma companies, you're earning a lot. Like, I need to bring the cost of drugs down. So the space has been perennially underperforming. And, the hope is that it starts to outperform.
Let's talk about that hope then. Do you see any bright spots out there?
The one bright spot, I would say, even before, like from 2022, has been medtech. So medical devices. Again, before anyone tells me like only part of medtech is working, this is a spot of haves and have-nots. So I would characterize have-nots as something where it's a commoditized business, right? When was the last time you went to a doctor's clinic?
I saw my doctor, who I've been going to since I was 6 years old, in the spring.
Okay, so have you seen anything change in the clinic?
I think he changed offices in the 80s. But since then, I've been going to the exact same office. The room looks exactly the same. Pretty much, the same setup since I was a teenager.
Right. So the weighing scales, the stethoscope, all of those things, the bed, all of those things don't change, right? So if you're not innovating, that's not a spot which is working. But innovation drives share price action, right? So what are the things which are seeing innovation? So one is structural heart, right? So think of you wanting to repair your engine in your car, right? You would have to open the hood and then remove the engine and then repair it, right? That's what open heart surgery was all. But now you don't even have to cut the person. You can have a small incision at the groin or at the arm and then send a catheter through and fix a valve, like not even opening the person. That's innovation, right? That's one portion of the market. The other one is like robotic surgery, right? So think of you, again, car example, you're speeding and the car tells you don't speed. Or there's someone who's right ahead of you and you're almost going to collide, but the car slams the brakes and saves you. Similar technology is happening in the medtech space, right? So let's say you're doing a surgery and you want to cut an incision. Your device is telling you, that's probably not the right artery. Don't nick it because we can't fix it.
All right, interesting stuff. So when we talk about the medtech companies and we think about people needing, health interventions because of perhaps poor health, or other things can happen as well. GLP-1s, all these weight loss drugs and these different therapies, is that a bit of a threat to them?
Great question. GLP-1s, if you think about it, let's take a step back, what they do. Everyone knows, everyone wants GLP-1. I want it, right? Like, I want to reduce my weight. But within the US healthcare system, not everyone gets access to it because you need to be morbidly obese, like maybe more than 300, 400 pounds. And so how does this help medtech companies, right? So if you're 400 pounds, even if you do sort of a hip or a knee surgery, it's still not worthwhile to do something like that because you're still overweight. It still puts pressure on your hips and knees. But now if you actually consume a GLP-1, you're maybe shedding 200 pounds and coming to that optimum weight where an insurer is actually covering you. And so in the moderate term, it's actually quite positive. Longer term, maybe people are going to remain underweight, and so your hips and knees might not need replacement, but shorter term, it's actually a positive.
Interesting stuff. I hadn't thought about that dynamic. Let's talk about life sciences tools, also an area of weakness. Are there interesting things happening, though, to look forward to?
Correct. So it's been a weakness. So let's step back and talk about what life sciences is, right? So let's say you're going on a toll route, right? You have a toll booth. You have to pay a fine every single time. That's what life sciences is, right? So let's say a pharma company is coming and talking about drug discovery. What life sciences tools does is they do the testing. They give you the instruments. They give you the consumables. They give you the patients. Who do you test with? Which animal, right? So all of this is life sciences. So a pharma company cannot launch a drug without the help of life sciences. So this is your recurring revenue base. Now, coming back to what happened to life sciences, again, comes back to COVID. Again, I can't believe we are talking about COVID again and again. These guys over-earned in COVID because you had this massive R&D spend, which happened during that point of time. And so there were a lot of companies who wanted to bring a drug for the cure of COVID. This happened, and so they over-earned. And after that, that steady income, I told you the revenues, that rolled over, right? So then you saw this drop off in terms of life sciences. Second, as soon as COVID rolled over, which is 2022, US saw massive inflation, right? So it was around 9.1%, the highest they had seen in 40 years. So they had to raise interest rates. So interest rates went from 0 to 4.5%, like very, very quickly. And why does this matter, right? So small biotech companies need funding, like they don't have money, right? And in order to find a drug, you need money. And if you don't have money, or if you're taking a loan at 4.5%, that's a massive negative. I would not spend more R&D dollars, which means life sciences are getting crushed, right? All of these were kind of negative tailwinds, negative headwinds for these guys. Now, why is it positive today? I think COVID has rolled over completely. No one is talking about COVID anymore, right? Interest rates are going back lower. So we are starting to see a lot more investment in biotech companies from the private equity space, as well as people doing a lot more investment. Pharma is also ramping up their R&D spend. All of these are going to be tailwinds for life sciences.
Lastly, I'll ask you about the role of artificial intelligence of all this. We're told it's going to change so many industries. How does it play out in your space?
AI is not just NVIDIA, Broadcom, AMD, but there's also AI in the healthcare space, especially in life sciences. Coming back to think about it, like if you are kind of on a path of drug discovery, you are looking for a needle in a haystack, and this is going to be a massive haystack. What AI does is that it reduces the haystack. So a typical example would be you would need more than 10,000 molecules. You need to test more than 10,000 molecules to get that one drug discovery molecule which works for, let's say, cancer or COVID, whatever the treatment is, right? Now, instead of testing from 10,000 molecules, AI is saying, okay, these are the molecules which did not work for previous drug discoveries. So instead of testing 10,000, you're probably testing 5,000, right? So the funnel is now reducing, and by the time you come to test in humans, it's actually maybe less than 10 molecules you test per person. So it's dramatically reducing the haystack, and it's also dramatically reducing the time to discover a drug, which is actually very, very positive for life sciences as well as pharma companies.